Book 2, Sutra 47. By lessening the natural tendency for restlessness and by meditating on the infinite, posture is mastered. Because the senses want to taste many things, we load the system with toxins. Instead, we should control these things. Also, we can achieve steadiness through meditation on the infinite, anything great, huge, well settled, and well established. Tiny things always shake. So we can think of the earth or how steady of a mountain. So we can think of the earth or of how steady a huge mountain is. In the Hindu tradition, the devotee thinks of Adesha, the thousand-hooded serpent, which is said to carry the world on its head. If you take this image literally, it seems like foolishness, but this cobra stands for gravitational force, the prana sakti, or vital force. The force is represented by a cobra since it is believed that the cobra can live mainly on air. But we can think of anything according to our traditions and beliefs. New Yorkers can think of the Empire State Building, of its great foundations and how steady and firm it must be to carry over 100 stories. A European might say, I will be as steady as the rock of Gibraltar. Or as we can imagine, we are statues or dead bodies. If the body is still, it is easy to make the mind still. One of my masters, a great tantric yogi, used to say, you don't need to repeat any prayers or even do japa. Just sit quietly for 3 hours in a row with no movement whatsoever, without even winking. Then everything will be accomplished easily. If we sit that long, the mind comes under control automatically. Through the body, we can put a brake on the mind. The mind will always think, it's time for the movies, I should get up and go. Or I'm hungry, I must get something to eat. But if we decide, I'm not moving for 3 hours, the mind ultimately has to obey us because it needs the body's cooperation in order to get anything. That is the benefit of asana siddhi, or the accomplishment of asana. There are other kinds of siddhis also to control the mind. Bhojana, or eating siddhi, is one. You restrict yourself to eating just a certain amount of food at a certain time each day. Sthala siddhi is limiting your movement by taking a vow such as, I won't move out of this apartment for 1 year, or I will not leave Manhattan for half a year. Probably the very next day, somebody will offer you a free ticket to California. Tests tend to come immediately. We all might have experienced this. The moment we decide to fast, a friend will bring us something delicious to eat. It makes us feel very sad. Just today I decided to fast. She could have brought this cake over yesterday. I think I'll just postpone my fast until tomorrow. In this way, we fail our exam. When we take a vow, we should stick to it. There will be ample tests to tempt us to break it. In Hindu philosophy, specifically in South Indian Savasiyam, there is 63 Savasanata saints, called the Nayanars, who realize the truth by taking just one vow and sticking to it, even at the cost of their lives. One of them, a king, vowed, if I see holy hash on any forehead, I'll treat the bearer as Lord Shiva himself and give him all he asks for. After a while, a test came. His enemy, another king, came to know of his vow. He dressed himself as a philosophy teacher, smeared ash on his forehead, took a sharp dagger covered with a nice cloth, and went to the palace. When he arrived, he asked the gatekeeper if he could see the king. As he was ushered in, the king's minister, Tata, asked for his credentials. I have come to teach a special scripture to the king. I am a teacher of philosophy. But the minister had some doubt. He thought he recognized the man, but he had been ordered by the king to bring in anyone with holy ash on his forehead. As he did so, he told the king, I have my doubts about this man. I think he is your sworn enemy. I see holy ash on his forehead, replied the king. He is Lord Shiva, come to teach me some scripture. Let me learn from him. Turning to his disguised enemy, he said, please take your seat. The other king said, this is a very holy scripture, very sacred and secret. It should only be taught to the proper student. You are that person. Your minister is not qualified to hear it. He should leave. As the king was dismissing him, Tata asked, do you really want me to go? Yes, you must. And so he was forced to leave. The king bowed before his supposed teacher, and as he did so, he was stabbed with his enemy's dagger. When the king yelled in pain, Tata rushed back with his sword drawn. The king said, Tata, he is my lord. Don't do anything to him. Let no one in the country harm him. Take him away safely. Take him safely away. With the holy name of Lord Shiva on his lips, the king fell dead. With his last breath, he had the vision of God. The rest of the 63 Narayanar saints invariably had this realization at the cost of their lives also. The idea behind taking one vow and sticking to it is that we become the masters of our minds. We don't give them any leniency. Once we make a vow, we should stick to it unwaveringly. Traditional Hindu marriages are made on this same principle. Once a life partner is taken by somebody, the wife becomes a goddess to the husband, and he a god to her. If one partner dies, the other lives in memory of that person, a renunciate, never to marry again. Although the husband may be a drunkard, a devil, the wife will say, he is my Lord. God gave him to me. Whatever he is, I will accept it. This is great austerity. A proverb concerning it goes, he may be a rock, he may be grass, but he is still my husband. The wife says, let me adapt, adjust, accommodate. Let me live with him. By their own faith in the Lord, many women have converted their unregenerate husbands into true saints. So feel free to unmute yourself if you want to share.
Well, I'll just state the obvious, I guess, in that last paragraph. I get the point of sticking to your vows. I get it. The example with the cake was a good one. The example with the husband and wife, maybe not so good. That's just what I'm thinking. If anybody can explain to me why they think, why that is appropriate, go ahead. But I think that's
so I can explain why I think they think it's appropriate, but I do not at all think that's appropriate.
Right. I mean, I can see why it fits with the idea of sticking to your vows. In the ideal world, marriage is sacred, and if you make a vow to someone, it's a sacred thing. However, we also have to look at all the other pieces that we've already talked about not harming yourself and all the rest of it. So if your husband's a degenerate and treats you poorly, I think you need to stick to that vow.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the idea behind it is that the woman entering the marriage possesses the Shakti, and in aligning herself with the Shakti, she can elevate the souls of the people she loves, especially the men that she loves, because usually the problems that make them degenerate are kind of their disconnection from the Shakti.
Sure.
So I don't agree with that. I mean, just sticking by him and molding yourself around him it's very this is how my family is, and it's disturbing the types of things that are allowed to go on under this belief system.
Right. I think it can be distorted.
Yeah.
I think that I get the point, the underlying point of making your vow and sticking to it, and also leading by example. So if the woman can elevate, or the other way around, I guess, but you can elevate a situation by example. You can lead by example, but sometimes that doesn't work.
Yeah.
And nobody should have to stay in a situation that is intolerable because they've made a vow.
Yeah. And I think, the idea is that in being in the presence of a woman who is completely dedicated to her Shakti, that you not only lead by your example, but that your energy changes the energy of those around you.
And I believe that.
Yeah, I believe that too, but I don't, I totally agree with you, Jackie. Like I have many people in my family who are married to drunks, like abusive drunk men, and I don't see them being helped by the women in their life. I think in a lot of ways they're enabled by this philosophy that seems to be just very convenient for abusive men.
Right.
And I love how he kind of only talks about it in regards to like the woman elevating the man, but says nothing about that happening the other way around. And I think that that's because even in the culture, there is this understanding that the women are not often the ones who need to be favored.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have a reverse thing in that, my husband is the one who elevates me, if anything, which is great. And I agree with everything that you all said. And I think Jackie's point about ahimsa and so on is just really important. And before this started, I was speaking with Pam about just a realization that came to me. I think it's possible there are vows and promises that you can make, but also there are, that are verbal. You say them out loud. They're overt, and so on. There are also commitments that you make that are maybe not thought through as commitments, but are equally important. So, for example, during this time, I got in the habit early on of contacting a couple of people I knew who were sheltering in place in isolation. They were by themselves and with not a whole lot of opportunity for contact with other people. And I like these people, we're friends, so it wasn't a hassle for me. But I realized about 4 weeks into it that I had made an unthought out commitment to contact these people once a week. And now I was obligated, not necessarily in a bad way, but it was a commitment that wasn't thought about. And I think this applies to that as well. Mm-hmm. Be careful what you start doing. Be careful who you are trying to be, because what seems like you to be something that's not so vital might appear to other people to be incredibly vital. When my youngest son went into kindergarten, prior to that, I had been working 3 or 4 days a week. It depended on the year and what was happening with my other kids. When he went into kindergarten and he was in school full time, I basically received an ultimatum: come back full time or start looking. And I decided I wanted to stay there, so I was going to go back full time. And my little one, who was in kindergarten, when he learned that I would not be picking him up from kindergarten on Friday afternoons at 3:00, Jackie, you can imagine, the response. He said, "Tell Phyllis this was all a big mistake and you can't do this." and it was really hard. And it's a lesson that I keep on learning over and over and over again. You buy a plant, you better be ready to water it, and so on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even
that's what this.
Yeah, I think that's important for other people, but even more so for ourselves. Like, especially as women, how many times we break vows to ourselves? Like
Yeah.
we sign up for a yoga class and we're like, no, I'll make dinner for my family instead, or I'll sit on the couch. You know, like there's 1,000 ways I find that's where I break it the most.
Yeah. I wanted to say, like, before Jackie started to share, I was just going to be like, I'm calling bullshit on the sutra. Well, maybe not on the sutra, but I'm calling bullshit on the commentary to the sutra. And for me, it's like, I'm looking at the source of the commentary, and I'm looking at the belief system
Yes.
of the person making the commentary. And with everything that's happening in the world right now, in our own country right now, it's having me look at what we take as the truth and how much we take for granted, that so many things are open to interpretation. And usually the interpretation that we lean towards is the group that has the most power. And probably this commentary has more to do with like a vow towards like your spiritual life, or a vow for someone who's becoming a guru, a teacher, and maybe their vow for their work has to be like, I'm willing to die for this work. On the flip side, I can see how sometimes you have to be so committed to something that you would be willing to die for it. Like if someone isn't so committed to equality that they'll die for it, then none of us wake up to inequality. None of us are challenged by the injustices. None of us are challenged by oppression. We just go with it. If someone is if too many of us are unwilling to die for something, like that level of commitment doesn't exist, then things just stay the way they are all the time, and we'll always lean towards those who have more power or those who have more control. And those systems aren't the truth. Those systems are just, it's like when we look at our the amendments to the Constitution, and it's like some people will really take that so literally, and it's like, you can't take away my ability to protest. You can't take away my ability to bear arms, and they'll die for that. And then on the other, you know what I mean? Like it's all open to who's talking, who's sharing, and who has more, whose voice has more weight, whose voice has more power. And it's like he had me. I was so committed to the sutra. I was like, oh wow, this is so perfect for me. Like, because I was starting to waver on a personal decision in my life. And it's like, no, remember what you wanted, and remember to stick to what you said you wanted, that you know you really do want still, you're just feeling defeated. And it's like the whole thing with the cake, like, oh, you know, fasting, and that was like a perfect example. And I was like, yeah, I really get that. And then he goes and he talks about the wife, and I'm like, all right, I'm gone. Just like that, I'm gone. It's almost like in the sutra, in his commentary to the sutra, he challenges, the same way he says you'll be challenged, he challenges us. Like, we're all like, okay, yes, the cake. Okay, yes, the vow. Okay, yes, commitment. And then as soon as he's like, okay, the wife, we're all like, nope, no vow anymore. The sutra, I can't follow the sutra anymore. So I don't know. I feel like there's a lot in here. I feel like I'm ready for an updated version.
That's very insightful.
I think, as you were talking, I was thinking, if this was written today, how different the commentary might be.
What
Same
sutra is
person.
47.
Totally.
Can I?
And I feel like,
you know, if he was living in this life now, he would give different examples, I think.
yeah. And I feel like this has happened to us a few times where we're like, this is not really real. This is offensive. This is borderline offensive.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Amanda's trying to say something.
Sorry.
Can I read a different translation?
Yeah.
I am in total agreement with you, Adriana. And I've had teachers who are always like, learn Sanskrit so you don't have to have the translation from other people. I love the guy we met, Adriana.
Yeah.
I feel like his translations are so not like cultural. They're just like, this is what the sutra says. I agree with you completely. And that's so insightful about like whoever has the most power is the one who's saying how, yes. Okay, so he says for 46, the posture.
47.
Oh, we did 46, right? Okay, 47, the means of perfecting the posture is that of relaxing or loosening of effort and allowing attention to merge with endlessness or the infinite. 2 means of perfecting meditation posture. Steady and comfortable posture comes through 2 means: loosening the tension or effort to sit in the posture, and 2, allowing attention to merge with the infinite. A still higher degree of steadiness is attained by samyama on the channel below the throat, as noted in Sutra 332. Effortless attitude. Most of us have busy lives in which everything happens because of a concerted effort to make it happen. It seems as if we must do something if anything is to happen. Perfecting posture for meditation comes not much by doing, but of not doing. Surely we have to put some effort into training the body to sit straight and be aligned. However, after that is accomplished, the next step is to learn to do nothing, allowing the posture to settle in for meditation. It is an active form of doing nothing, of consciously ceasing to place any effort into the posture. This conscious effort to release any form of effort can be felt experientially, internally. You can know for yourself that it is really a valid, useful, and key principle in developing a sitting posture for meditation. Loosening of effort through attention. One way of loosening effort is to systematically move attention through the body through a variety of relaxation practices. By systematically moving attention and breathing smoothly, the releasing of tension and effort comes easily. It is more a case of allowing than of causing the release that leads to a perfected posture. Focusing on the infinite. To focus on the infinite, simply close your eyes, sit as comfortably and erect as you can, and allow your attention to expand. Attention likes to wrap itself around an object. Allow that object to be the whole of infinity. The mind will not be able to do it, but the effort to do so will easily be seen to bring a stability in the sitting posture. With a bit of experimentation, you could feel the effects of this yourself. Effortless and the infinite go together. By consciously, intentionally practicing the effortlessness of a posture, along with the focus on embracing the infinite, it becomes self-evident how well these two work together. The expansion and letting go bring a natural release as the attention is ready to move inward to the next rung, which deals with breathing and pranayama. I'm going to read the next one. It's short. From the attainment of that perfected posture, there arises an unassailable, unimpeded freedom from suffering due to pairs of opposites, such as heat and cold, good and bad, or pain and pleasure. Freedom from pairs of opposites. From the attainment of a perfected posture, there arises an unassailable, unimpeded freedom from suffering due to the pairs of opposites, such as, I'm just like reading the same thing, heat and cold, good and bad, or pain and pleasure. That perfected posture comes from the 2 means of loosening of effort and focusing attention on the infinite.
So maybe the vow is sit still and don't move.
Yeah.
It's like you sit and don't, like literally that's the vow. Just sit.
I think too, like I think the fact that we're questioning all this is part of this. Like when I read these sutras, like I definitely do not agree with his commentary, but I think he's waking us up to things like why I don't believe in marriage. I don't believe it from a religious aspect. I don't believe in it from a business aspect. I never wanted to get married. On our 3rd date with Eric, I told him, do not propose to me. I think that and I'm not against everyone getting married. It's just not for me. Like making a vow like that is intense. I can't even make a vow like that to myself, and I'm going to do it to somebody else. Like, I think the idea of marriage is it's too much responsibility to care for the other person. And I think he's just reminding us to like challenge what we're vowing ourselves to. Like he gives us the king example where they put the holy ash on. Like, do you really want to make a vow like that? Like, people, I know I have friends that got married just for the sake of getting married because it was the next thing to check off on the list and they wanted to have children. Like, I do not believe you need to get married to have children. If you want a child so badly, go have a child. Most of the time, the guy's not going to help do anything anyway. I wanted a child with Eric, I would be a single parent because he would do nothing. And I tell him that and he agrees. So I don't know. I think we need to be more careful with what we're vowing to ourselves.
Mhm.
I mean, at a certain point, though, if we're choosing to be a householder, like my choice to get married was a very spiritual choice. We were talking yesterday about those crazy swamis who would just show up. They knew about Mark and they told me I'm supposed to marry him because it's going to do something for my soul. And I was like, oh, well, okay, that makes it more clear what kind of commitment I'm supposed to make.
This is what I'm saying is like, I'm committed to Eric for life. I'm just not doing it in the way the world and society is telling me to marry him. Like, it's not going to be through a church or a priest or whatever, but like, I have my own idea of spirituality and marriage. And
I get that, and it's fine. And what I'm saying is like the vow part of it, where you're committing to something, brings a steadiness of resolution. Is that the word I'm looking for? And you've committed to him without like the constructs of a culture telling you like this is the paper you're signing, yada. But you've committed to him. I mean, like, I think what this is saying, what his translation is like, it's kind of like a far off example he's giving. I get it. But like from the context, my phone died right as Ashley was saying something. So I don't know what you guys talked about in regard to like what the idea of like the Grihasta stage is. But I have to tell you, man, like I have been forced to move through so many deeply embedded samskaras through staying married instead of running away.
I know, I think about that often too, because they're like just making the commitment to stay in itself, especially in our world right now, like with the divorce rate so high, that is really hard for people.
It's hard for, I get why I get it. Yeah. You're in quarantine, the world is burning down, it's so stressful. Like you start fighting with each other, and me and Mark saw in the beginning it was happening, and like we saw that in, I think it was China, as soon as everything opened up, like an insane portion of the population got divorced, and we were like, okay, we can't see our therapist right now. We can't afford to see our therapist right now, because we were seeing a couples therapist like religiously for a couple months. We're like, we're gonna do DIY therapy. So like we would sit down and like all the work is moving through samskara, like, and as soon as like a reaction, it's yoga, a reaction happens, we sit down and say, okay, what was the motive for that? When did it start in our lives? How is it affecting us now? And like, it's so freaking hard, and I'm sure it'd be easier to just like say, oh, I'm not gonna be married anymore. But there's like in any commitment, like yesterday, so with the whole fire and everything, like he even sat down with me at the end of the night, because like Micheline and Megan had to talk me off the cliff midday. I reached out to them because I'm like, I know you girls will pull me back, but like I'm feeling like I just want to give up. I have usually, like if I ever feel that way, I just plow forward, and I'm like, I have a responsibility to the community, I have a responsibility to like what I'm holding here. Yesterday I was like, I feel like walking away. The studio is burnt up. It's like, how many things can I take right now and like still keep putting it back together like over and over again? Because it's not any different than running a business normally. It feels like the whole place is burning down and we're like trying to keep it together. I was like ready to just walk away, and the girls were like, you made a commitment, we can do this, we're gonna support you. Like we're like, that's why Micheline's there today, because I was just like, I'm just gonna close up shop. I feel like I'm just gonna close up shop. And she's like, nope, we're going, we're fixing it, everything's gonna be fine, we're gonna do this, we're gonna reopen, you're gonna be laughing about this one day. And I'm like, okay, all right. And they like pulled me off the cliff. But like, I remember when I first opened the studio, I was a vagabond. I was a yoga teacher, and I would travel all over the world, and I had no roots. I was like, I'm never getting married. I'm never going to stay in the same place for more than 6 months. I would go everywhere. And like that kind of freedom, at a certain point, I had seen everything I wanted to do. I did everything on the bucket list, and I was like, okay, now what? And then my students were like, I want you to open, don't quit teaching yoga. Like I was going to get a regular job. Like, no, you have to open a yoga studio now. We're going to fund a yoga studio. I was like, all right. Cause I was so go with the flow. I'm like, sure, why not? I have to grow roots now. So I made this commitment to grow roots and stay in one place. And every time things get hard, I'm like, I just want to run away. Like as soon as the whole COVID thing hit, I was like, let's move to another country. I told him, I'm like, that's it. America's over. We need to move. We need to go to France. Like, we need to go to Italy. Like, I'm going to get my EU. Like, we have to leave here. And Mark's like, our whole family's here. You can't give up on America yet. We have to fight to make the change. Like, had to like get my roots down again. And like, I just, when you were reading that story, I'm like, this is what I had to hear today. Like, I made a commitment. I made a commitment. I have to like recommit. No matter, it doesn't matter if there's a pandemic. It doesn't matter. He's like, this is kind of an extreme circumstance for running a business. It's a pandemic and a fire, and your business is on fire. It doesn't matter. I'm recommitting. So that's what I had to hear today.
Thank you for sharing that, Amanda. I know exactly how you feel when you just want to be like, that's it, I'm done. Like, I want more than anything to just be in Costa Rica right now and come back when things are better, and then leave again, and then come back again and leave again. And maybe I will, but this whole conversation is reminding me of Akhilandeshwari. And it's like, she's so present. It was like hearing her name weeks ago was like exactly what I needed. And it's like, get accustomed to things falling apart. Get accustomed to things being broken. And instead of letting your fear and anger consume you, ride it like a crocodile. Use that fear, harness that energy to allow things to break. Because only in the breaking do they become new again. Only when shit falls apart do you realize where you were weak, where you were lacking, where you were blind. And it's like, you can only see now that it's sort of dismantled. And it's like, if you look around, it's everywhere. It's happening in our personal lives. It's happening in the world. It's happening in all the systems we've ever trusted. Yeah. It's happening like from top to bottom. And it's like such a necessary movement, I think, for spiritual awakening. And if what the entire existence on this planet needs is a wake-up call, I feel like it's not going to cease, you know? It's like, you wake up, now you wake up, now you wake up, now you wake up, now she wakes up, now he wakes up, now they wake up. It's like all of us. It's like, it's all, we're in it together, and it's like all or nothing at this point. So, yeah, and if you need help, please just ask. I'm not far from the studio. I'm happy to help.
Thank you. I mean, what I was telling them yesterday is like, if I'm at the point, I'm having such like crippling guilt asking for help. So I'm like, if I'm at the point where I have to like, I'm not able to serve other people and I have to get other people to serve me, then I'm just like gonna walk away from it because then it's not helping anyone anymore. And they're like, no, you helped so many people before.
You help others by allowing them to help. Look how happy Micheline is this morning.
Yeah.
She's such an angel.
I just got in the car. I'm telling you, I could like lift a bulldozer right now. I was
hear the happiness in her voice.
It's angel girls.
It feels good to be able to help someone else. I've said that like when I used to like not ask my mother-in-law because she always whined, and one of the moms told me, you need to ask her. Don't think of it as asking for help. Think of it as doing her a favor, giving her a chance to help someone so she can feel better about herself because she's doing something. I was like, oh, and that was years ago. And it still stands pretty solid. And Adriana, what you're saying about wake-up calls, it's funny because, well, it's not funny, but it is what it is. I was talking to my mom on the way here, and my brothers, well, one of my sister-in-laws, I don't know what was up her ass for years. Right? There was no talking to her, and she cut everybody out, and she pulled my brother into this doom freaking hole. And it was it was so hard to see them because when I go home, we were used to always like Sunday lunches. It's like going to church, Sunday lunch. You know, you show up at your mother's house and sit at the table. Since we were teenagers or whatever, like even if we wanted to sleep, you can sleep, but when lunch is on the table, you better show up. And that stopped happening. And then this morning I was telling my mom, because like all of a sudden they're all out all the time. And I'm like, this forced it to happen. And I guess they realized like why have we been pulling away from all of this? It's not really that bad, or whatever. I don't know what goes on in their heads, but that I was talking to him, I'm like, that's something that was forced right now because, and I guess she's waking up.
Mm.
And it's happening everywhere in like all different levels, or on all different levels.
I loved what Adriana said about, and I don't know if Amanda was on for this part, but Adriana, if I could quote you or paraphrase, it was so beautiful that you said making a vow to die for these human rights issues, and I think that is really like just for equality, like that's really for me like the bigger picture here, like vowing to be part of this community for revolution and helping, and vowing to help each other and surrounding ourselves with those.
Yeah, it's like such a crazy, amazing thing. Vowing to just like, I like remember when this first went down, we were like calling everyone, like who needs food, who needs medicine, like whoever was sick, you know, like Adriana like ran over and brought soup to Kathleen, like that kind of thing is so special and important, you know. And I've always felt that like our community was important and sacred, and no matter what I was suffering running a business, because it's like so awful so much of the time and so defeating and hard, you know, like, and no matter what, I was always like, it doesn't matter, I'm creating space, I'm a steward for this community of people, like it's not my thing, it's everyone's thing, and I have to like keep holding space for everyone, just suck it up and just do it. And like it wasn't, I don't know, I've never had a moment where I was like, that's it. And I hit that yesterday and I was like, oh God, something's wrong. I have to like, it's like when you need to call your sponsor, right? Like the material world, I'm drunk on the material world, I'm getting drunk on it, I'm ready to like give up on my spiritual life, I have to like call my sponsors. And I think that's what's committing to a sangha is as important as committing to your individual sitting and not moving practice. I think that's really become something that's like a samskara I've had to move through, that like you don't have to do everything on your own.
Yeah, and I read yesterday's sutra this morning, so it's fresh, and it's the story of the tree and the weed, and it reminds us that we're not just like, we can't just be strong, we have to be flexible too, so we don't break. So flexibility to me is asking for help and not having to do everything yourself.
I think one of like the part of the vows, like looking at our community, we all made our own vow to the practice, and that's like whatever it is, showing up, helping out others, showing up for one another, and it's all like played out so beautifully, you know, like all of us, like I didn't, as far as I know, none of us wanted to teach in front of a camera. And we did. And like Amanda, like the stuff that you pulled off the first 2 weeks, and like checking in on people and being there, and like this morning, like this morning meditation, it's been in so many, like so helpful in so many different ways for so many of us, you know, like whatever, like everything that's been unfolding, and we pull away from whatever we're talking and address what's happening and supporting one another. That's a huge commitment.
Yeah, it's been helpful to me. It's really been helpful to me. And Adriana, I'm keeping that vision of that goddess on the crocodile in my head. That's going to be like my driving force.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been mine for a few weeks. Like, hold steady, sweetheart. Just because you're broken, just because things are broken and falling apart, like, you know, it doesn't mean that it's wrong. It doesn't mean that something is wrong and it needs to be fixed. You know, like for me, the message, like I get a lot of messages, especially when I'm first waking up. And like today when I woke up, immediately the message was like, integrate. It's like, take the broken parts of you, the things that you're so ashamed of, the things you work so hard to hide. And we all have something that we're like working so hard to hide. It's like, start integrating that, let that be, because the more we hide, the more we allow shame, the more we allow this sort of resistance, the harder it gets. It's like, let it break and carry it while it's broken. You know, be brave and hold fast. You know, this isn't the time for big moves. This isn't the time for big decisions. This isn't the moment to, you know, do an overhaul. This is the moment to like stay steady, stay steady. It's a long one too. It's like, we haven't even hit the cold weather months yet. Like the pandemic hasn't really cleared and the cold months are coming. And the warning, if we just listen, the warning is all around us. Hold fast, hold steady. You know, there's a different way. And there will be a way through, but it requires steadiness. It requires calm. It requires honoring the power of rest. And we're gonna be okay, but it's not gonna look okay. And by not looking okay, we're all gonna think that we're not okay. And so we have to keep coming back to this truth that like Akilandeshwari shows us. And she's like, break. And break again, and break again, and break again. And there's this beauty in that broken, and keep going. This is how we bring a rebirth. You know? I don't know. This is just my thinking.
So powerful. Yeah. I mean, and that's like everything that Garnastar is saying too. If you're touching on every part of it in such a easy to like digest way, you're really helping me right now, Jana.
Yeah.
Like, how do we have to break the false identities. We have to break them, and that's how we are going to overcome and have unimpeded freedom from the opposites, right? Like, we have to let it break, and we are okay. We're okay underneath. We keep forgetting. I keep forgetting. I mean, like, I don't usually forget, but man, yesterday I forgot. I was I forgot. I was like, screw the I had one of those, like, I'm going up to the mountain. I'm leaving everything behind. I told Mark, I'm like, let's move to New Hampshire. Like, I was going through the whole thing again. I'm like, let's get chickens. Like, we're going to have a simple life now. I just need a simple life.
Yeah.
He's like, why don't you just sleep on it? Here's some ice cream. Keep on it. And like, you guys are right, we have to just keep going. It doesn't look okay, but it is okay. And it's a long
one. I would say too that like that fear that's like move to the mountains and have chickens, I would say that that's also valid. Yeah. So there's like wisdom behind it, and there's a message behind it, but don't let it be out of fear. So listen to the gut instinct, but don't let fear be what propels it forward. Don't let fear be what brings it into being. You know, find the source beneath it. Because look at how the studio has already, and many studios already evolved. And it's like the studio, the ideal of a studio, the what we have known to be about a yoga studio is now broken.
Right.
And something else has emerged, and that something else is trying to take flight. It's trying to flourish. But if we continue to pull things back to where it was, how it was, then the new that is already on the horizon, it's already being birthed. It's like you squeeze it, you suffocate it. You don't let it take flight. So it's like, this is the moment where you're like, okay, follow. Okay, flow. What does it mean to be in flow? Like, already you have a library of classes online that we did not have before. Already you have teachers who are equipped to film their classes from anywhere. Already you've given your teachers a way to earn money and not be landlocked. You know? And this is a whole new world that would not have existed if things didn't break.
It's true.
So who else knows? Like, what do we know? What else is going to come? Something else is going to come. Something else is always coming. And it's like revolution yoga might turn into something none of us can even fathom, because we're limited in our thinking. So it's like, crack that sucker right open and see what comes. See how tall the lotus grows. She busts right through.
Adriana, thank you for saying. You just said something. If we keep trying to go back to the way it was or fix it to be like it was.
Yeah, then we limit its potential for what it's trying to be. And like personally, but also like specifically for the studio, like we could also apply it like personally, each one of us. Like, what am I trying to go back to what was, when really what everything in life is guiding me towards is to bust through. Anyway, maybe we should meditate.
Yeah.
It's 8:30 already.
Oh, I needed to hear all that. Thank you. That was like therapy.
Yeah, just call me, girl. I will uplift you. I will hold you when you can't hold yourself.
Adriana's on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, a few days off does wonders. You know, you just like shut up and stop listening to outside stuff and just like look, like tune in.
I heard it in your energy circle. I was like, she's back. Okay, so set up in a comfortable seat or shape, whatever makes you feel comfortable. Straight spine. Just begin to relax the face, the fingertips, the shoulders. Beginning to lengthen the breath in, feeling it move through the chest, the ribs, the belly. And then slow exhale, belly button to spine, close the ribs, close the chest. Just taking 2 more like that, slow and steady, mindful breath. And we'll do a few rounds of alternate nostril breathing, closing left nostril off with the right thumb, left nostril off with right ring finger. Take a breath through both nostrils. Exhale it out. Close off right, inhale left. Close left, exhale right. Inhale right. Close right, exhale left. Inhale left. Close, exhale right. Inhale right. Close, exhale left. Inhale left. Close, exhale right. Inhale right. Close, exhale left. Release the palm. Setting up for your meditation. I'll set the timer for 20 minutes. You can drop whenever you need to, setting your own timer. Let's just keep the Revolution Studio community in our heart today as we meditate, creating powerful energy and vibes for Amanda and for the studio and the space and the students that might not have even found their way into the doors yet, but will. Bringing hands together in front of your heart. Namaste.